everything that everybody loves about New Orleans is because of Black people.
You're going to get that fit. You're going to get your hair done. You're going to get your nails done. And you're going to be with your crew. And we're going to be out here in these streets freely being gay. It is the way New Orleans allows you to step out and be yourself.
Bringing history and tradition and culture together.
Right? I love that I see everything that's beautiful in New Orleans, from our food. You go to a second line.
This journey has been one hell of a roller coaster.
Audio Jungle.
I am the Divine Prince, Tai Emmecca, Pan-African Spiritualist, Practitioner, Author, Advisor, Elagoon, Oloye, Hoodoo, Obeya, Bokur. I reside in this beautiful and legendary, historic Treme, New Orleans, Louisiana. So join me as I share food, music, culture, tradition, the rhythms, and the flavor of New Orleans voodoo. Respect the voodoo.
Respect the voodoo, respect the voodoo. Greetings and salutations, honor and respect. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes, powered by NOIVD, New Orleans National Voodoo Day. We indeed continue to invite you to visit us at www.vodouday.org. Again, www.voodooday.org, VODOUDAY.org. This is a celebration not just of a name, but of a long-held truth that we honor and acknowledge and uphold each and every annual Voodoo Day here in the beautiful historic city of New Orleans. Something sacred is indeed evolving. A legendary and historic event is growing. And after years of honoring tradition and building community, we are stepping into something even bigger, rooted in reverence and guided by the ancestors. Together, we're growing, expanding the circle, deepening the connection, and rising as one. So again, continue to support us, visit with us, donate, sponsor, offer to volunteer, participate, and visit us at www.voodooday.org. On May 21st, there will be a full unveiling. A powerful shift is on the horizon, and we certainly appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much, Nina Lloyd, for your continued presence and support. Greetings and salutations, and alafia to you, the goddess. Thank you so much for continuing to join us. Thank you so much, Elder Reggie, our team member, our financial advisor, and certainly our elder and community leader and member of NOIVD, New Orleans National Voodoo Day. We certainly appreciate your continued support and attendance. My number one priest in Godchild, Joshua Nyland Tanner, we certainly appreciate you. And our beloved co-host, the Queen Mother, Toni Val Martinez. Greetings and salutations to you and yours, beloved. How are you doing this evening?
Alafia, I'm doing well. Hello, everyone. Hello, Elder Reggie, Brother Joshua. How's everyone doing?
All is a blessing. All is a blessing. Greetings,
Yeah.
Elder Reggie. Come on in.
Yeah, greetings. Greetings. We good. We here. Everything is good.
That's good.
Yes.
Well, once again, a citizen of New Orleans has given Voodoo Hoodoo Vodou a bad name.
indeed.
I'm talking about the woman
Bone
named
lady.
the Bone Lady.
Yep. I seen that video, but go ahead.
Did you read the comments?
No, ma'am. No.
See, I like to read the comments. I like to read every comment until something interrupts me if I don't get to the end. But the Bone Lady, I mean, I was just too outdone. Who is this lady?
Good question.
Well, people seem to know her, and she did readings because people in the comments said they didn't know she was out of jail because she was in jail for shooting her boyfriend or her husband or something. And then other people was making comments that she did their reading. So maybe she's somebody that be having a table out in the French Quarter. People seem to know who she was. And I'm just, we not gonna never get nobody to take us serious with this kind of foolishness going on.
Well, we know that's how she started. She was just a common tarot card reader from Jackson Square.
So you know her? You aware
I
of
know
her?
of her.
Okay,
I know
you
of
know
her.
of her. Okay, you know
I've
of
had
her.
slight proximity to her over the years. She certainly knows who I am. And yeah, she has a bit of a reputation, but you know that. General Major. You know. Remember now, this is a woman who was, running off other readers when you were at the hotel in the French Quarter.
When I was at the Royal Sinesta,
Yeah.
she was the one who wore the red all the time.
Yeah, that's her.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's her.
So the guy who used to be with her all the time, is that the one she's supposed to be then shot?
Now I'm a little confused on who the boyfriend is, who the husband is, because she recently posted something in regards to her husband having passed. And at the funeral, if I'm not mistaken, he was upright.
Right.
In a chair, and
Mm-hmm.
and it was a big dramatic thing.
His deceased body.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's right.
So y'all see what we up against?
I see it.
Shenanigans. And
Mm-hmm.
they had a lot of people in the comments going, that's not hoodoo. That's not voodoo. What a tambourine don't have nothing to do in voodoo. Then they get into an argument about the tambourine and voodoo and hoodoo. I mean, just shenanigans. And I don't know if those people who had the doll hired her to do that for dramatics. But
Perhaps.
the guy who was putting it in the truck, in the van or whatever, didn't seem, from the look on his face, he just wanted her to go away.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's the way I saw it too. And then she's gonna throw holy water inside the vein. I'm like, what is that gonna do?
She was
Yeah,
throwing it on the crate that Annabelle was supposedly in,
right.
and she was rebuking Annabelle in the name of voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
I just never ceases to amaze me. And this is why people don't take us serious.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Don't
they
take,
think it's all witchcraft and foolishness.
and shenanigans, and you know,
I can't for the life of me find these photos right now of this repast, this funeral of said husband, sitting up, in the chair. But we certainly saw it, and it wasn't that long ago.
Correct, because I saw it also when she first done it, and there was an uproar in the city around that. So she goes for the dramatic. This lady, I don't know her, never seen her or met her, but she definitely goes for the extreme, and maybe I don't know, to bring more people to her table at Jackson Square. I just don't know the particulars about her, but today was not a good look.
No,
No.
definitely
no, not
not,
at all. Joshua, are
especially
you
not
with
with
us?
Annabelle. Uh,
Yes, indeed.
but I remember her since you said it. She was kind of a bully, wasn't she?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Back in the day when she kind of first, appeared and showed up, she
'Cause
had, some, a bunch of, I'm trying to be diplomatic. I'm looking for my words to describe the rascals that hung out with her, and would do her bidding. I know in California they call them gutter punks, but they would attack tour guides and attack other tarot readers that would, attempt to set up in this space in Jackson Square, which is legally first come first serve. But they would, you know, almost mafia style seek to dominate the tourist traffic. Now, in all fairness, that sort of rumor is said about many dynamics, to what we see that goes on in the French Quarter. Let certain people tell it. What's that on your feet? We know that as a sort of a local tourist scam, but you know, they claim it's a group mind, operating behind that. Um, there's a gambling thing, that I saw a documentary about, and people come here for extreme gambling that's supposed to be secretive and underground and hidden. And if you reveal, locations and details, bad things can happen to you. So I'll give her that it's a common story that's, presented against, anyone really that seems to have some kind of mobility in terms of the tourist economy, in the streets of the French Quarter. But
well, well, I know it was before Katrina, and I was working security at the Royal Sonesta right on Bourbon Street, and my job was to stand in the very front door and keep the ladies of the night from coming in hustling the guests in the hotel. And I would see her out there with the other performers, I want to say, and I seen her in a couple of situations where she was getting into it with some of the performers, and all I did, and you had came visit me one night, and she was getting into some shenanigans, Divine Prince, and you ran it down who she was, and I say, long as she don't come on this side of the street with it.
hmm and I think that was before she shot the boyfriend the first time.
Wow.
Because again, this husband was clearly a black person, but the boyfriend, I always presented as white. So I'm really confused about that
Who
aspect
got
of
shot?
yeah, yeah. And I might see her. She'll pass me on one side of the street. I'll pass her on the other. Particularly when I was working in the French Quarter, many years ago, she would be out there at the wee hours in the morning, and I would be passing through. But she never attempted to aggress me. And there were, an occasion or two, we'd be in that grocery store there together, her and one or two of her armor bearers, and they shoot a look and I would shoot a returning look. But that was really the extent of our communication. But in terms of people working in the quarter, particularly in the spiritual shops, the gift shops, the psychic shops, we all knew who she was. We all knew the stories, the rumors, long before they showed up on the 5 o'clock news about her.
Anytime I see some kind of video like that, or video dealing with someone regarding hoodoo or voodoo in the city, I always go to the comments to get a feel of what the everyday common people are saying about the incident, because the conversation always goes back to what is hoodoo and what is voodoo and what is not. So I get a feel for what people think it is and what people think it isn't. And sometimes if I'm in a shenanigan feeling way, I'll go in and make my comments and really start a problem. But I didn't comment on this one. It was a lot of comments, so I just was reading. I liked some people comments that made sense. I pressed a little like button on theirs. But
yeah, but she's easy to track, for the most part. New Orleans Bone Lady, and just drop that in a Google search engine, and you'll get quite a few news articles, particularly about her more violent shenanigans, particularly against her boyfriends or her husbands or whoever the victims are in these cases, but they're of a domestic nature. I'm not so much. I know she's been to court once or twice in these shenanigans with these other tour guides, and that's not so uncommon either. The tour industry is a aggressive industry on many levels. I wanted to say cutthroat, as they used to say back in the day. So they're often, filing lawsuits against each other, calling the police, against each other, or, checking folks' licensing and whatnot. But there's, the occasional shoving match, pushing match. But she, at least over the last 25 years, has had the most aggressive, negative footprint in the French Quarter, and somehow continues to do business.
oh Lord. But this is what we up against. This is what makes our job so hard.
Oh yeah, because we, on the one hand, we are undoing and battling the system, the governments, these nations, these former slave-holding colonies, in terms of their damage and continued damage by way of misinformation, bastardization, appropriation, commercialization. But then there are those who, want to claim Spirit is talking to them. And Spirit is talking to them so much that they're going to, hop in a car and drive 6 hours to my house without an appointment, and then beat on the door, ring the bell some more, beat on the door again, in the middle of a consultation, without any thought whatsoever that I was important enough for you to drive 6 hours here without as much as a phone call, email, or a response to my in-house protocol. But then you show up in white, beating at the door, ringing the bell. We're not responding because, again, we were in consultation at the time. Engage my neighbor in conversation. you know, so Sister Toni, you said it at the top. And some of the chat box it's referencing, the foolishness that we often are seeing attached to hoodoo, voodoo, conjure, root work, and really the linguistics, what we're calling it, that has a political edge. People take on different names for various reasons, often to show connection to without commitment for. So they can't necessarily say Babalawo or Mambo or Hogan or Iyanifa. So we say root doctor or medicine man. And I'm speaking more in the modern context, not in its historic context, where we identified those in our community who were operating in these areas of concentration by these terms. But we're talking about the shenanigans that we're seeing today in pop culture and social media, sometimes in journalism and the news, and explore your Google Translate every now and again. Oh my goodness, some of the articles I've seen coming out of Latin nations, for example, have still utilizing demonizing language and reference to African tradition, Aboriginal tradition, and practice in general. It's sickening at this point with the amount of information that is available, to re-educate the masses. So we have to look at what's motivating people to continue, the bastardization. And it's often for commercial purposes, for financial gain.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All of these wannabe video ministers with TikTok churches raising all this money. I know with the release of Sinners, I've seen more than I've ever seen on TikTok. Of these what I call TikTok ministers talking about the evils of what Annie was doing in the movie and saying, don't go watch that movie. Demons gonna take you over. And just completely overlooking all the other stuff that the movie was about, the film was about. The lessons in the film, how it ties into what we're dealing with today. They totally overlooked that, and the only thing they could see was voodoo, mojo bags,
But
vampires.
even that seemed contrived to me. Originally, the movie, was released, pre-released to rave reviews, and it stimulated and motivated various demographics of the community, for many reasons, and certainly not just for the supposed magic, hoodoo, and voodoo, but the sort of religious tenor feels after the fact to me. It's so popular now. It's so stimulating now. It's so conversation, opening now that pastor now has to say something about it, on Sunday. And so they pull from a classic, wicked script. It's the devil, it's wickedness, it's evil. But I think it's really a second and afterthought to the overwhelming popularity and stimuli that the movie produced.
What I would
Yeah,
like to add, what I would like to add also, outside of the ministers, I do see a lot of hoodoo people chiming in with their assessment of the movie. But a lot of them are going for the sensationalism also. They're not trying to put down roots and appreciate hoodoo or voodoo or even the atrocities our people went through. They just want to sensationalize it with one or two things and do a blog on it or a podcast on it for views.
Likes and views. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been online since Hurricane Katrina. And so I've watched, sort of these trends, what's fadding, what's trending. At one point it was, the new Wapians, and then it became, the Hebrew Israelites, and then it became this group or that group. And we've seen Sister Toni and I, people's whole identities shape shift,
Yeah.
from one season to the next, on what seems to be popular, trending, and more so than the cultural aspect, it's the social aspect. It's often the next way to, well, it was often the next way to date or to socialize. But I would certainly say since the TikTok era, it's now another means of income.
Yes.
Sad.
It really is, because what we are trying to do as a collective, especially with NOIVD, maybe next month we'll be fortunate to have the marker that is a collective that we work to get placed on Esplanade Avenue. But the men who the marker will be representing, these men use real voodoo at the time, right after the Civil War, to usher in a new way of life for themselves. So voodoo and hoodoo, it's not sensationalism. And when you study it and you do the research behind it, these was real spiritual system helping the people who was oppressed. And people don't want to honor that aspect of it, especially not today. They just want to feed off it, grab a piece of it, and go with it. And that's it.
And let's not ignore the work.
Mm-hmm.
You're not showing up at the temple at 11 a.m. and sitting and standing and maybe hitting the offering plate a couple of times. I mean, every person is involved in the ceremony. Every person is involved in the process. Every individual is involved in the demonstration. And so there's some activity involved. There's some work involved. There's some involvement, required. And the mainstream religions, particularly Christianity and Islam, have sort of numbed communal participation to some degree. They can call numbers, hundreds of thousands to gather together in a space, but the actions and the activity is often relegated to that one or two at the podium, that leader, that pastor, that imam, if you will, and the energy is not dispersed throughout the group, throughout the community. So there is some communal involvement that many people, sort of moving away from organized religion, resist, because of the drama that we, associated it with, back in the church, and so they come in, want to look the part, want to dress the part, want to speak the language to some degree, or what they presume to be the language of these practices and these traditions, but don't ever make it into becoming a part of the village, the community.
That is well said, Brian. Oh, that is well said. Wow. I couldn't say no better than that. You hitting on it.
Yeah,
And New Orleans Voodoo Day is it's really a coming together of many villages in one shared sacred space. Go ahead, Joshua. Greetings.
How you guys doing? I've been a little bit busy, but I'm listening. I've been enjoying the conversation. And like you said, you're right. Mr. Elder Reggie, you're right in terms of what Divine Prince just said. You couldn't say it no better than that.
Right. And it really does also sort of support or explain, if you will, why there are those people that want to make it about one or two people, that want to make it about, you know, the one or two white faces that they saw in a picture, or the one or two mixed race faces that they saw, you know, in a video. They are really overlooking, if not in direct denial, of the individual contribution to this collective event, to this collective shared space.
Yes, yes.
And then, you know, when they looking at videos, this another thing that kills me. If I was on one of those videos, they would think I was a white woman.
Yes.
They would see my face and say, oh, look at all them white women. Look at that white woman right next to Divine Prince. They looking at complexion. They more focused on complexion of people in there. Yes, they have some white people, but they also have some light-skinned black people.
Some Creole people, some mixed race people, some
Yes.
Latinx people, Haitians,
a lot
who
of
are not
different
all
people.
chocolate, by the way. Yeah. West Africans who are not all chocolate, by the way. Yeah.
Wow. The conversation really morphed into a real good pad tonight. And the one thing that I see, not necessarily with voodoo as much, but with hoodoo, there's really no gatekeeping. There's no system that they have to follow. So they're freestyling. But with voodoo, there is a path, there's houses, there's organizations you can join.
There's structure and disciplines.
Yes, yes, yes. Like now there's a lot of TikTok on John the Conqueror. They didn't twist that particular route all type of ways, but they're not doing no research on it, why the people used it back then and how it could be effective today. They're not doing that. They're just taking the short version of it, speaking on it, flipping it, and this is what they're doing. Once again, no gatekeeping on it at all.
They're using them books like Betty Crocker cookbooks. Hoodoo for dummies.
Now we have AI. Now they're using AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, our time is once again ending. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. The conversation was really good. We see what we up against. We see what kind of times we're dealing with. Not only do we have foolishness in our own communities, we have to deal with the greater foolishness of the politicians that really affect our day-to-day living, as far as your jobs, your benefits, and everything else. So it's so much. We're very busy at this time. And I want to thank everyone for taking time out of being busy to join us here at 9 o'clock. So I'd like to tell everyone good night and turn it over to the Divine Prince for the closing.
And we certainly continue to invite you to visit us at www.vodouday.org, www.voodooday.org, for more coming announcements and information about our third annual National New Orleans Voodoo Day. Until next time, remembering that all is truly and indeed a blessing. You can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. And no matter what you do, respect the voodoo.
Good night.
AYIBOBO. Good night.
Yo, good night.
Good night.
Good night.